Nice enough to join us now on what I'm sure is a busy day for him is the general manager of the New York Yankees, and that is Brian Cashman. Brian, it's Michael and Don. How you doing today?
I'm fine, guys. How are you?
We're doing great. All right, tell me your feelings on this team. You feel good about it? Confident? Optimistic?
Optimistic. I think, it's like kind of preparing for a marathon. It's a long season, as you guys know, and so spring training, especially, in the winter and the free agency and potential trade opportunities and stuff, that's kind of like preparing for the marathon. So we got to the starter's gate, relatively healthy and in shape, and I think we have a good chance, as we enter the race. So, that's all we can ask for, and it's certainly a different position when we entered the starter's gate last year after we had the spring we had. So we're in a much better position, I think, to run this race this year than we were last year at this time.
Was it difficult, Brian, to assess exactly what those 85 wins last year meant with all the injuries?
Well, I think we overperformed with those 85 wins, to be honest. I don't think our roster reflected those 85 wins. We had a lot of work to do. I mean, obviously, a lot of talent was removed from that roster and filled with, considerably lesser talented players, but they were grinders and they fought hard and they cared about trying to compete on a daily basis, and somehow we squeezed out 85 wins, but that was much more than that roster should have put forth. So we had a long way to go and to try to shore up in a lot of areas. So thankfully we had a lot of money given to us by ownership to commit in the free agent market, pulled down some big time talented players, and we had a good spring. So our players have come back, they're in shape. The new guys have come in, they've all meshed together. We've got a nice feel about ourselves, but again, it's a marathon, and it starts here in Houston, and the competition is going to be fierce throughout the entire year. So we'll need good health and good luck, and hopefully these guys can perform to their capabilities. And if they do, and we have all that, I think it'll be a fun year for us.
Now, you made some nice pickups that kind of went under the radar after all the big pickups, and they ended up making the team in Solarte and also Anna. Before we talk about those two, Brian, are you disappointed that Eduardo Nunez has not grabbed the position? You've given him the opportunity to win jobs each of the last 2 years, and here he is in the minor leagues again.
Well, I mean, he's got a lot of talent. The physical tools are obvious for anybody to see. The translation into consistent performance on a daily or weekly basis has been as well as some issues staying healthy just have held him back. He had a good spring. Solarte just had a better spring, and as did Dean Anna. So to be true to our word, competition, giving everybody a fair shot, and in the end those guys, It's less to do with Eduardo and more to do with what Dean Anna and Solarte did, to kind of take that opportunity and run with it. So I'm happy for those guys. Whatever we've had high hopes for Eduardo clearly, and over the years the talent level just hasn't translated.
Did Tanaka give you the spring you anticipated?
Didn't know what to anticipate. He gave me the spring that I hoped for. Let's put it that way. It's such a risky proposition when you dip into the Japanese market to transition here to the States. We've seen success stories and failures, and so you don't want to. One thing you have learned is you don't take anything for granted. So he performed this spring as good as I could have hoped in terms of how he's acclimated himself with our training program, with our coaching staff, with his teammates, and how he's handled the press. And, he goes about his business in such a professional way. It's been a joy, and I'm happy we do have him, and I think he's going to have an impact on us in a big way this year.
I hope that you read the Tom Verducci story on SI, which was a really good story on Tanaka. But it did bring to question. I wanted to just throw this at you, Brian. I mean, the amount of pitches that Tanaka has thrown in his life, the amount of innings at the age of 25 is just unheard of. You would never, ever, you've been very strict with the way your pitchers are brought up, ever allow any of your pitchers to do that, and you made a big bid for him. Was like almost two parts of your brain warring with each other when you did that?
It's certainly something that gives you pause. I think that's why I think maybe it was controversial when I said the contract itself doesn't necessarily reflect when I said he wasn't a number one starter. The contract, as well as the pursuit on him, not by the Yankees alone, but by everybody, reflected the scarcity of talent, that teams have access to. And here's a 25-year-old starter, yes, with a heavy workload in his past. Hopefully, now that we have him, hopefully the protection in that would be the extra time for recovery they have in Japan versus, if that workload was done here in the States. But I think it's a reflection clearly of, there's not many 25-year-olds that you can get your hands wrapped around, even if they have the workload they have, in this sport. It's just such a difficult sport, and to get to this level at that type of ability is rare, and to have access to someone at that age is even rarer. So, it gave me pause, but the need still exists, and obviously we made the commitment, and we look forward to hopefully good health and massive production from him.
Who do you think has the best chance to recover from the injury? Derek Jeter, who did have only 17 games last year, or Teixeira with a wrist injury, which is really tough on a guy that needs to swing for the fences?
Interesting. I think they're both recovered. I think clearly wrists are a little trickier. So I guess if I had to pick, it would be Tex, although I believe he's 100% healthy. And now it's just, getting his swing mechanics back down. He's a historically slow starter always. And now, to have that in the back of your mind, as you're working through things, is it just, me taking a while to find my swing, or is it me getting the wrist strengthened up? Those questions are things that you can obviously be curious about. But I think they're both healthy, and I think they're both should really be 100% for us. And whatever happens as we move forward will be less to do with what happened in the past than anything else.